Here we go. Hi, good morning, Dr. Felipe. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Annie. How are you?
I am good. I wanted to thank you for being here, spending your time and giving us this space. And I would like to also welcome the audience to the Inner Pause today. And this space is for leaders, professionals, and human navigating complexity, where we slow down just enough to listen inwardly. And here in mindful leadership begins with self leadership, with awareness, compassion, and the courage to meet what's here. And I'm Ainee, and together here with my co host, Dr. Felipe, we are going to explore what it truly means to lead from presence.
Awesome. That sounds great. Look
Uh,
forward to it. Thank
Great.
you.
Let's begin with just a quick, short pause here. Hmm. Great. Thank you
Wonderful.
for pausing. Dr. Felipe, I have many things that I want to check with you. I know you are the expert in mindful leadership. And I wanted to check with you what brings you to mindfulness as in personally, not, leadership yet. What inspired you to practice mindfulness?
That's a great question to start with, Annie. Because actually, I didn't start practicing mindfulness as a practice. To me, it started just as a word. Um,
Oh.
I I spent decades in, executive leadership positions in different roles with various companies. Um, Throughout my doctorate program, mindfulness was interwoven throughout the curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I heard the word mindfulness over and over and over, but I can't say that I ever knew exactly what it meant. The real turning point came when I was traveling in Tulum, Mexico. I met two young men from Argentina, and let me tell you, they were so present in living in the now and focused on just being present in their lives that I was so impressed by them. Um,
Oh,
and they really inspired me. And one of them told me one day, he said, if you will just meditate for 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes a day, it will change your life.
and I totally agree with that.
Do I do too now, but at the time I was a little reluctant and hesitant, and I thought,
Ah,
"Oh, come on, that can't change your life." But let me tell you what, it did change my life. And even though I was skeptical at the time, I started doing YouTube videos. So here I am sitting in my cabana in the middle of the jungle, and I'm doing these YouTube videos. And I did them every day, like they said, for 10 to 15 minutes. And then, I started doing for longer. And I really found and understood why they were so present and focused in their lives.
mhm.
And it became something more than just a word for me. It became a practice. And I finally understood what mindfulness meant.
Wow, that is
And
so profound.
it was it was eye awakening for me, right? It was heart awakening. I felt my heart change. I felt things change in my life. So at the same time, I was actually working as a digital nomad executive leadership consultant, and I was analyzing these 360 reviews for these multinational executive leadership teams, right, for some very large companies. And as I reviewed these 360 reviews on these executive teams, one subject kept coming up, and that was how reactive the leaders were with their teams during meetings.
Mm,
Realized that that reactivity came from a lack of presence.
mm,
And that's when the other insight for mindfulness, to practice mindfulness, really resonated with me inside. And I put the link together between leadership and mindfulness. And that's when I started the Mindful Leadership Lab. And I started doing research on mindfulness, how it impacted leaders. And I realized there's not a lot of theories out there on mindful leadership. And so I started to realize that what needed to be done was to operationalize certain theories to help leaders know exactly how to respond in certain situations so that they can be more mindful. And that it was a really the leaders that I saw being reactive through the 636 reviews, they weren't taking time for that inner pause. They weren't leading from the inside out.
mm.
They were leading from the outside in. And so, I started to operationalize mindfulness for leadership. And it was, that's where it kind of led me today. Um,
Wow.
that's where I am, and that's why I kind of feel like this is my new professional
This
calling.
is it now, right? This is it now.
Exactly,
Oh,
exactly.
wow. Wow, you said so many things, and I've taken some notes. I do have a lot of questions for you coming up.
Oh, good, good.
Oh,
Because based on your mindfulness and compassion work that you have done
mm-hmm.
throughout the years, you've become like a mind expert on mindfulness and compassion and loving compassion. So I have quite a few questions for you too. Um, if you don't mind, can I
Of
start with the
course.
first one?
Yes, sure, sure.
So before we talk about mindfulness or leadership,
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to start with you and ask you, where did mindfulness and loving compassion start
Mm.
with you? Where did it come into your life, and why was it so important at the time?
Well, I must say that mindfulness came to me when I was going through a lot loss and transitions in my own life.
Mhm,
Now, I think I've shared with you before that I spent my whole life in a high pressure environment. I'm in
mhm,
engineering, I'm in consultancy, leadership. There's a whole lot of responsibilities, and competence, endurance are what they value. So, I have
mhm.
to be that, right? Keep doing and doing and doing. On the outside, of course, everything looks very steady. Ainee is that person, right? People look up to. But inside, gosh, tell you, I give myself so much self pressure. And there were moments that I really felt disconnected. Sometimes when I look at the mirror, I just do not know who this person is, trying to be tough, right? As a woman,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So, yes. So when mindfulness came to me when I needed it most to stay present, to stay true to myself. And compassion is like the second wing of mindfulness. It followed naturally because I realized understanding mindfulness intellectually
Mhm.
doesn't help me much, just like you say, right? You have
Yes.
to sit 10, 15 minutes just to feel it, right?
Yes.
To understand what mindfulness is. So understanding it intellectually for me wasn't helping me at all. I wasn't able to be with what I was feeling, but compassion helped me instead to be with the pain, the vulnerability, the complexity, the emotion that I was feeling. So instead of asking, what do I do now? I ask myself, how do I relate to what I'm feeling right now at this moment? So
Mhm.
compassion naturally come in. And that's a beautiful shift for me. I realize um not like I'm changing myself, but I'm actually meeting myself with honesty, with what's here, and not pushing
Interesting.
things away. And yeah,
So you allowed yourself to feel those things and have
exactly.
compassion inward.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a big shift. That's a
It
really
is. It is a
major
really
shift.
big shift. So, like you say, sit on the cushion, understanding what's going on, moment to moment awareness, and that
Mhm.
really helps.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's amazing to me that you link that compassion with that, and that was a natural transition
It
uh,
is.
for you. And I can see that in your work and what you do. It's about loving yourself, right?
It is because to me, if you understand mindfulness intellectually, now I know what is going on right now, but
Mhm.
how do I relate? How do I respond? What am I going to do? Right? Yeah,
Right.
most people, like you say, you mentioned earlier, reactivity. Yeah, I know what I'm going on. I'm angry now. So I react, right? But with compassion, I understand, oh, now that I'm angry now, right? Can I sit with this anger?
Mhm.
Right? Can I be with it? Why am I angry? Angry. And we're gonna talk about that later.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
a great lead into, because that's one of the things I found too
Mhm.
was, you know, sitting with your feelings really, it's an inner experience and compassion and being kind to yourself is so important. So I'm so glad you found that for yourself.
And I'm so glad you found that for yourself too. Right.
It must be part of the process.
Now, coming up, I'm gonna ask you the next question I have here with me. There was definitely this shift in understanding mindfulness intellectually and to living in the body. So I wanted to ask you, what was the inner shift for you actually? I know you mentioned that earlier, managing performance to cultivating more presence, but how for yourself?
How for myself do I
Mm-hmm,
create
mm-hmm,
presence?
mm-hmm,
Uh, that's an important distinction because I didn't find my mindfulness at the height of my career, and I found it since. Um, I led from a servant leadership mode, and I
mm,
was I was taught through servant leadership, which emphasizes stewardship, compassion, empathy, and
mm,
so those were things that were naturally taught through my career and through the different organizations I work with. I understood the systems, but I didn't understand that mindfulness was the catalyst for that, right?
mm-hmm.
So when mindfulness entered my life, it didn't replace anything I already knew. It revealed more.
That's the inner shift we're talking about.
Yes, it's an inner shift. Exactly. So it revealed more about who I was inside, what I was feeling. It gave me an opportunity to take that pause, that mindful pause. It's so important, right? That you've mentioned. And that inner shift, it was a sustainable part of leadership that managed to just kind of flow into my life and what I was doing as a leader and my work. And I didn't rely solely on experience. I relied on that inner sense of self that
Mm-hmm.
is so important in mindfulness, right? Um, I think what mindfulness has given me is just time to slow down and relax and pause.
Wow, I think that's a really a live experience. See, I realize that mindfulness is not like, yes, you do practice on a cushion, you practice moment to moment awareness, but like you say, 10, 15 minutes, it changed your life. It is that live experience. It changed who you were before to into being the real you, that, not the
Yes.
reactive ones, not the one that wants control. It does for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Wow.
It definitely shifted that. It kind of amplified it in a lot of ways, but it also helped me realize that, you know, as a leader, I don't always have time for that 15-minute mindfulness pause, right? Or shift. It has to happen quickly, and I have to just take a breath when I'm in a leadership situation that's more high intense, right? And this more has more high intensity, or that is quick and I have to make a decision. I'm with my team, whatever it might be. And it taught me that mindfulness can happen quickly. That pause is something you can learn.
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's something that you have to practice, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that it can be learned, and it's a skill. And that's why today I'm trying to help leaders understand that you don't need 15 minutes a day to meditate. What you need is to learn how to just take that pause, or
Yep.
to feel what is happening inside you, so that you lead from the inside out rather than the outside in.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Felipe. This is goal for everybody. Like you say, nobody has time when you're in a leadership position. But that simple 2 seconds, 3 second pause does everything. Obviously, if you want to go deeper, you can sit 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. But two
Yeah.
seconds, it's good enough.
It is, and that's all you need.
That's all you need.
And there it is. But it does take training, right? It does take
Mm,
time
mm.
to learn how to do that, right?
Yeah, it
So
does. It's a practice. That's why mindfulness is a practice.
it's a practice, yes,
It's a
and
practice.
that's where you've spent most of your career, is through that practice.
Yes, I do. I do.
Yeah.
Mm,
So you
mm.
have such a rich background in it. What was what was the shift for you,
What was the
where
shift for me? Mm.
something just shifted from, this is okay, I'm meditating, I have compassion for myself, I'm loving myself. What shifted for you to help you understand that you can embody this on a regular basis and you can practice it regularly?
Um, like I mentioned earlier, understanding mindfulness intellectually, all right, it's just one part of it. But learning how to live, embody it, it's in the body because our body holds all the emotions.
Hmm.
So just intellectually, it's not helping me to transform alone. That I understand how to relate to being stressed, in a conflict situations, and also inner critic for me came up a lot when I first practiced mindfulness. So the
Hmm.
change, or rather the inner shift, was really, like you said, that pause is gold. That pause helped me to process the emotions chemically in the body, and it really takes only 90 seconds, research have shown, to
Right.
process that emotions, and which I feel that effort alone cannot do that.
Hmm.
Mm. And mindfulness, it's like, for me, it was very, very, very humbling kind of experience. Like I
Hmm.
feel like before, all the discipline, the pushing through, pushing harder, it does help in mindfulness, right?
Uh-huh.
It does help to to propel us further in our career in leadership. But for me, really is, it cannot teach me how to be with all this uncertainty, especially when am I would use the word cornered in a boardroom, right? I need you have to make a decision now. It's like you're caught, like what to do,
Yes.
right? Yeah,
Yes.
uncertainty and you feel vulnerable,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Yeah, so
definitely.
that was that shift, that pause, like you say, it's really important for me to feel what I'm feeling first.
Hmm.
Mm.
Hmm. Awesome. Awesome. That that's so important to be able to just take that moment to feel, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And and not only that, but analyze it so in just seconds so you understand this is what I'm feeling and I could this is how I need to react to it, right?
Mm.
But you react with more compassion, you react with
Yes.
more
Yeah.
care, with
Yeah.
other people in mind, right?
Yeah.
To make the wisest choice you can.
Yes. And most importantly, Dr. Felipe, I wanted to say for myself and for everybody here, we cannot push away our emotions. It's gonna stay,
That's such
right?
an important point.
Yeah, it's so
Such an important point.
important, right? We learn to feel it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and it just need time to process. But if we try to push it away, the
Mhm.
minute you feel something, you're not letting that pause help to process that emotions. Everything that we do are reactive.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Such an important point. Such a very, very important point. Because once you push it away, it can come back even more reactive, right? Or it can come back in a worse situation, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mm,
yeah, I
mm.
love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That was awesome.
Um, I understand that you also have this four pillars that, I went through your website, you teach leadership with the four pillars, and we have spoke about rain, that I practice rain a lot, not as a
Yes.
not as a technique, but like an inner pause, like what we have just mentioned earlier. But I do
Yeah.
like you to share a bit, how do you personally experience rain in real leadership moment, say maybe during a conflict or during uncertainty for leaders?
Yeah. No, that's a great question because I really feel like the RAIN framework that you use, and my four pillars of mindful leadership work together in very synchronously, right?
Yeah.
They're very tied together. Um, recognition for RAIN equals full awareness, uh, grounding, emotional regulation, impactful communication. All those are simultaneous, real moments of leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, the R recognition would be awareness,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is you know, in a mindful situation, you have to be aware of what you're feeling, right? The A is allowing yourself to regulate your emotions
Mm.
and take time to have that emotional regulation so you aren't reactive. The I would be investigating, where um, in my four pillars, it would be authentically grounding yourself in the situation so that you know what emotions are being triggered and you can take time to be present with those emotions, and what truly matters. And then the N is nurturing, right? And you have to nurture that inner state of communication
Oh.
and you have to nurture your inner state and be able to communicate that in a way that truly matters to those you're with and your team so that you can make a big difference. And as I've analyzed the RAIN framework and my four principles, they're really integrated very, very well. And they really are a cohesive blend that come together very, very nicely. So yeah, it's a way that we manage performance, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
way that we can be more mindful and put these principles into uh, action.
Mm.
And that's the most important thing is
Mm.
how do leaders put these into action in the most
Mm-hmm.
relevant way that helps them be more successful?
Yeah.
So,
Wow, thank you so much. This is really important because then now we have like a kind of a structure, like a step for leaders to
mhm.
learn without having to sit 15, 20 minutes or 1 hour.
Yes, definitely.
Wow, yeah. And that is really, I like the way you kind of rain is a traditional practice, which I use that in my heart framework as well.
Yes.
Um, but I like the way you mentioned the A as in allowing and
Hmm.
really helping leaders to do that emotional regulation. And I think that is the really important part of it. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
It's that emotion that is stirring up that causes us to react most of the time.
Yes, yes, yes. The awareness and allowing it to happen, like you said, you can't stop it.
You can.
You have to become aware of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going
Mm-hmm.
to happen whether you like it or not. It's just how do you react to it, right?
Yeah.
Um, so you allow it and then you make a choice on how to react.
Mm-hmm.
In a mindful state, you react more with more wisdom, with more compassion, with more honesty. You react with your values intact, right? And those are all very, very important. So,
Thank you. This is really, really important. As for me as well, rain became something that I practice. Even short pauses, 5 minutes is like rain. Okay, let's do it. Let's do the rain.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I can understand and see why the framework has been so important to you in your practice and why you use it because it's really impactful. Very, very
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
definitely. So I have a question for you as we move
Mm,
forward.
sure.
Um, from your work with, you work a lot with female leaders,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and high performing professionals. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you teach them to, really internalize everything,
Mm-hmm.
internalize, the RAIN framework, internalize what they're going through, so that they can make better choices and decisions.
Oh, well, let me just start with brain framework first, right? Like you mentioned, recognizing what's here right now, which is very, very important. And you
Mhm.
also mentioned allowing. For me, allowing what's here to be seen. Like if I'm feeling angry, it's here, right? But
Yes.
not judging it, not reacting, but just recognizing and accepting that I'm feeling angry. Anger is here, right? For example, right?
Hmm.
And we want to investigate, with more curiosity. Why? What's underneath this anger, right? And
Yes.
then, yeah, but we don't have to do it all the time. You don't when you don't not have that time. But
Right.
just that few seconds of pausing allow more wisdom to come in, and it
Hmm.
does help in our regulation physically in the body and to nurture it with compassion. And say it's really important wing of mindfulness for me and for a lot of people that I work with as well. I know you asked me something about women, right? But the
Yeah.
reality is I work with a lot of women, and one thing that I see very common that I send is this very quiet exhaustions, you know,
Interesting.
including myself. It's exhausted that we are trying to hold everything together.
Okay.
Like many leaders who are out there, men or women, they are outwardly very capable, respected, they're functional. But
Yeah.
inwardly, we are carrying so much emotional weight, from coworkers, from colleagues, from the bosses, from everything. And we just didn't have that space to process, or maybe don't even know how to process these emotions that's stirring up there. And then
Hmm.
again, it turns to self judgment. right? Why am I not feeling this way again?
Yeah.
And then there's an feel of slowing down. No, I got to do this. I cannot slow down, right? And often for leaders, what I see when they're really very up high in the career ladder, there's a sense of loneliness, like nobody understand me.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've seen that as well. I think that's a common feeling for leaders.
Yeah.
The higher they climb, the more loneliness they
Yeah.
feel. And
Yes.
it's also almost an isolationism that separates them from everything
Mm-hmm.
else going on. But
Mm-hmm.
they're having to navigate where they are in the organization.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
hard when you're feeling exhausted, when you're feeling lonely or
Mm-hmm.
isolated.
Mm-hmm.
It actually amplifies everything that you're feeling, which makes it more difficult.
Yeah, that's where all the unprocessed emotions you mentioned earlier, right? They don't go away. They're gonna
Yes.
just stay there in the body and they show up as reactivity. They show
Yeah.
up as leaders over control. Have you seen leaders? So I want this done now, my way. Right? It's over control. And then there is also this subtle disconnection. There
Right.
sometimes they will demand this, but they don't know what they're demanding. Well, because it's reaction, over
Right.
control and all this kind of things. And
Yeah.
I feel that this is the part that I do want to address in most women leaders. And
Mhm.
I suppose it's also for men and all leaders. Now, from your work with leaders, what do you
Mhm.
notice most right now? Not from the surface, but underneath, what are leaders really struggling that isn't being talked about enough?
Yeah, that's an important question because oftentimes leaders suffer kind of like we talked about in isolation and kind of loneliness by themselves. I did do a little research, and one of the core things that I found is that the core leadership principles or concerns that leaders face today really haven't changed that much over the last 10 years. They're
Oh,
very, very similar. Trust deficits, lack of communication, burnout, isolationism, all those
mm-hmm,
things people suffered 10 years ago, they still suffer today. Um, what's changed, I think, is the intensity of those things. And the reason for that is because of the way the world's changing, right?
mm,
The adoption of AI and new technologies, the global instability that we face now. So all those things we still suffer from, but they're just more intense, and it makes it harder for leaders to deal with them. Um, you know, uh, if you're talking about loneliness or isolationism, it makes it harder for them. Um, I did some research and found that 72% of executives suffer from that sense of isolationism and loneliness that you were talking about, which is amazing, such a high percentage. Um, this is also echoed in the 360-degree feedback that I used to get from the executive leadership teams that I would do analyze, right? They would come back with a lack of feedback, silos, siloed thinking, cultural shifts, a lack of trust. So all of those things are still the same. I think what changes it is, and how leadership can change it, and the why of leadership is that these strategies that these people are leaders are experiencing, just um, strategy itself and decision making isn't enough. They need a framework that can help them uh, to deal with them better. right? And that's where mindfulness comes in. That's where you and I have talked about the RAIN framework and mindful, you know, the four principles of my mindful leadership lab that come in. The they make all the difference because they teach leaders how to be more aware, how
Yeah.
to have more attentional control,
Mm-hmm.
uh, how to regulate their emotions, um, and take pauses for them, enabling them to respond more effectively. And I think that them learning to deal with the intensity of these same things that have been around for the last 10 years that have been haunting leaders makes a huge difference today, right? So the mindfulness principles that you and I both teach are really a not don't want to say a cure because we don't need a cure, but they are a means of operating, helping leaders operate differently, right? And taking more time to slow down and really think on their feet, think more quickly, take time for the pause, and really understand, their emotions with more compassion. So I really, really think that that's the key. I
Yeah,
really, really.
thank you so much, Dr. Felipe. This is really, really important. I feel the same way too. Can
Mhm.
mention, um, it's the isolation and the loneliness and this emotional regulations, like you said, the intensity I see now everywhere, leaders, right? They have burnouts and not knowing what is causing those burnouts and all that. These are all unprocessed emotions that I feel that is really stuck in the body over the years. Now with
Yes.
AI, new challenges, new things like you mentioned, the new strategies, the skills and all that, the coping mechanism that people learn nowadays in the market, it's not going to help much anymore because it's been too long we're holding. Our body feels that tension, the tight shoulders,
Yes.
everything is in the body. And I
Mhm.
feel that um, I wouldn't want to say it for anybody, but just my personal experience, right? It helps me to be more in alignment as a leader, as a professional, what I'm doing rather than being my action based on all these fear-based action.
Yes, yes, that's
Yeah.
very well put. Very well put. Fear-based action is
Yeah.
a real thing for mindful for leadership,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The base actions on fear and anxiety rather than taking time to really analyze the true thoughts and feelings and emotions they're going through. So
Yeah.
that's very important. I love that.
Mm,
I love that.
I love what you said as well, the intensity, oh my God, it is, and people don't realize that.
Yes, no, they don't. They don't. They feel the intensity, but they don't recognize how much more intense it is now than it used to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
even more reason to give them tools and resources to help them cope.
Yeah,
Um,
that bring me back to working with women leaders. I always sense this. Every one of them have this quiet exhaustions, but they don't know how to name it. They are capable, my best friends, really capable, high achievers, respected, very functional. But
mhm.
somehow this emotional weight that they are carrying and they just haven't learned how to process it. And I think that's where mindfulness comes in. That's where your framework comes in and my heart framework comes in to help them
Yes,
come back, recognize that this is like that, and how
yes,
to navigate this emotion so that you act right, so that you lead with more presence, more grounded awareness, with more value based, intentional work rather
Yes.
than, fear-based reactivity, like trying to control things. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love the fact you said it's intentional because it really takes intention to be able to take time to realize what's going on, and take the right action and use the wisdom that you have inside you to make those decisions rather than based on fear or anxiety. That's awesome.
Mm.
I love how you put that.
Wow. 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 I'm sure the listeners will be benefiting a lot from here. Um,
I
Coming
hope
up.
so.
Okay, sorry.
Well, I hope so. Well, one of the things that I've noticed as we go through is you taking a moment to pause. It's interesting to watch you take these moments, just go, and pause just real quickly. And I see that in our conversation. And you can see how it's built into your life. And and conversations that you have. It's real. It's a real thing. And it's really interesting to watch you practice that as we go through here.
I didn't even realize that myself until you bring it up, Dr. Phil.
Uh,
It's
I,
like,
I see it. I see it happening.
ah,
So
yeah.
mindfulness and practice right there.
It's there, it's just embodied, it's there, right? I
Yeah,
take time to take in, to process,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
awesome. It's awesome to watch. It's awesome to watch. So
Mm,
hey, I have a real a question that's been going through my mind
mm-hmm.
as I was looking through some of your YouTube videos, and I found something that I thought was really, really interesting. And it's something that goes beyond mindfulness and calmness. Um, it's let me see here. It's kind of a byproduct, I think, of everything. But the excuse me, the um, framework that you use in one of your videos that I loved, and it keeps going through my head. It's called inner reengineering, and it it's something that I think, wow, that's a that's how you teach leaders how to, or how do you teach leaders how to re-engineer their insides to become what they need to as a leader? So when you use that term, what do you mean, and what does it mean to you as you make that inner shift?
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, I came from an engineering background, right?
Mhm.
So for me, this inner re-engineering is just my way of relating to what I'm doing,
Okay.
how to relate to our inner world, right? Because I do a lot of engineering. Like, for example, we understand when there is an inlet, there must be an outlet, right? In the engineering term. So if pressure is built up, right, and there is no outlet, your valve is going to give way.
Okay.
This is how I understand from an engineering perspective, right? So re-engineering, inner re-engineering is a term that I use, like really re-regulate your inner being, right?
Mhm.
Refining, relate to how you relate to what you're feeling on the inside. Yeah. So, which means rather than refining the systems, the strategies that we talk about, and all the performance driven skills and work that we leaders do, but what about the inner system? If our
Mhm.
inner system is running on a pressure, like I've given an example, the pressure built up, and that's the self-criticism and the survival patterns that comes from fear base, right? Someday, somehow, in one way or another, the valve is going to break. It's going to give way. You're going to explode. It's going to come. You know,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
how I imagine it. So I use the word inner re-engineering because that's where I tell myself I have to re-engineer myself.
yeah.
Oh,
That's a
yeah.
phrase I'll tell you, that's a phrase that has just stuck with me and that I think is so pertinent to, helping leaders shift inwardly, is to re-engineer their inner self. And I love the way how you put it into your own framework of, your own career of being an engineer and what you've done.
Hmm.
It makes total sense and total, uh, yeah, you
Yeah,
operationalize, yeah, you
yeah.
operationalize well.
Yeah. So to me, at that time when I put it in, I'm still using it a lot. Um, it's restoring alignment
Uh-huh.
and how our nervous system regulate. And of
Yes.
course, there's a lot of emotional honesty there,
Mhm.
so that we act intentionally, like you mentioned earlier, not fear-based. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's
Mm-hmm.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
And that gives a lot of clarity. That gives a lot of clarity to me and
Yes.
to people that I work with as well. So then our decisions are more grounded. Um, and obviously, the practice itself, the re-engineering itself, whatever word you want to call that, at least it doesn't cost us our well-being. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and I love the way you put there's an input and there's output, and the
Hmm.
output has to come out somehow. And you can actually change how that output comes out based on your re-engineering of your inner self and noticing those things. So
Hmm.
that's wonderful. Wonderful way to put it. Thank you for sharing that. I
All
appreciate it.
right. Could you just give me 1 second? I think I need to charge my computer. It's running on low right now. Just put the
Oh
charger.
yeah, no, no
Okay,
problem.
there you go. Right. I have a few more questions that I prepared and I wanted to
Yeah,
ask you.
I'd love to have.
Um, One thing that we mentioned, right? We talked so much about this re-engineering, inner regulation that shapes the inside first, and then it helps to shapes the outside, leadership, right? Why do you believe this leadership today must start from the inside, not with strategies, not with this, uh, big strategies and all those things that we talk about, right?
Right.
So why do you think it's so important?
Yeah, I love that question because that's what drew me to mindful leadership in the first place was seeing these um, executive leaders on their 360 reviews say, my CEO is too reactive. I don't like it when the CFO, you know, acts like this in a meeting. Um, it shaped it watching these executives shake their reactiveness and be so reactive helped me realize that these executives are coming from the outside in and they aren't taking time to take that pause and regulate their inner self. And so that inner self became my focus. And I realized that these executives were not leading from the inside out. And
Mm,
that's where I realized that it had to shift somehow, right? And that's when I started practicing meditation and mindfulness. And that's when I started to realize that there's a connection between the inner self and the outer self and how we react. And it's a choice, right? It's a choice to either react from the inside out and act with our values, act in alignment with who we are, act with authenticity, act with calmness, or we can react. And that sets something totally different in motion,
Mm.
especially for our teams and the people we work with, right? Because what we um, we mirror what we
R.
uh, act. Yeah, how we act is
Mm.
mirrored to our
Mm.
teams, and they react back to how we react. So I knew that inner calmness, that inner working on the inner self was the most important thing that these leaders could do. Um, and unfortunately, these leaders are given a 360 review and they said, here, work on this, but there's no follow up, or there's rarely follow up.
Mm.
And there's
Mm.
no way to teach them how to change what's on their 360 review,
Mm.
right? So a leader's inner state is always reflected outward. Um, And when others feel that, if it's a steady, calm energy, then the team will be calm and the team will make wiser decisions and collaborate better. If it's reactive and emotional, then the team's going to react to that as well. And I saw that in the 360 reviews. I saw these leaders mirroring those negative behaviors. And I just realized that we have to start inside. Every strategy, every decision we make, everything is filtered from within our heart, right? And through our emotions. And we have to be able to know what those emotions are, understand them, and be able to take that pause and change how we react to them. So
Mhm.
that was that was a huge awareness for me. That's what came from working with the 360 executive teams, is that they aren't working from the inside out. They're working from the outside in. And that's the number one thing that needs to change. So that's when I started to develop ways that they could operationalize their their actions and learn to train and teach themselves to think differently. And that's when I started to, do research into neuroplasticity and neuroscience and how to change behaviors and what really wasn't worked and what was important. And that's how I designed the theories coming out of the Mindful Leadership Lab that will help leaders, if they take time to really learn and to reshape their behavior from the inside out.
Mhm. It's so important what you mentioned. I love the word you use, mirror back. It's the energy that you put out, you're gonna get back the same energy. To
Yes,
me, the way I look at it, because from an engineering background, energy work and all this kind of thing that's relate to me a lot, and that's the way I see it. And it's really important what you say. I personally experienced this kind of leadership. My CEO is this, my CFO is this, and then they are not seeing eye to eye and they are arguing in front, or they have their own debate, and it it passes down to the middle management.
it
And
does. It
yeah,
does.
and we are the one absorbing all these things. Yeah, I can totally understand where this research that you're doing coming from, why people are saying all this, because leaders today are leading from the outside in rather than the
Yes.
inside out. And I cannot agree more, with the work that you're doing, the research that you've been doing, and my own personal experience, my personal work on myself, and
Yeah.
also working with leaders. It is so, so true.
Yes, yes. And as you know, through your work, with mindfulness and compassionate loving training, is that it can be um, taught, it can be learned, right? And it's a skill that it's not that hard to learn. It just takes the right strategy,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
the right
yes.
mindful, compassionate strategy to teach someone just to pause and relax and come from the inner self rather than the outer self, right? And be reactive to an outside situation. So I know that it can be taught, it can be learned. It's a behavior and strategy that you and I, that's our focus. We help leaders learn how to react differently, how to be more wise in their decision making, how to
Mm-hmm.
be more authentic with their teams.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all those things are so important. So
It
I
is.
I appreciate the fact that have so much experience and that we're on the same page as far as we
Yes, we
understand
are.
how to teach people what they need to learn and how
Mm-hmm.
it can be different for them.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
remember the first person that I coached through in a mindfulness session,
Mm-hmm.
a leader that I was coaching, and I said, let's start out with just taking a 5 minute pause. I want you to breathe in 5 seconds and breathe out 5 seconds. And we did that for just 3 to 5 minutes. And when they were done, they went, I feel so much different. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they never taken
Mm-hmm.
time to even experience that pause. And that it made a world of difference for them. They were shocked by how much change was created by that short pause in their life. Um, and I think if more people experience that,
Mm-hmm.
they would understand mindfulness so much better.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And I also believe that leadership starts from self-leadership first, because we
Yeah.
have to be more, in the practice as why are we practicing mindfulness to me is to develop this composure. You see, the
Mhm.
CEO reacts this way, the CFO react this way. So
Mhm.
mindfulness actually help leaders. It helps me to stay grounded in this composure where I am calm and I am listening out. Then I respond instead of react
Mhm.
intentionally, right, to what is going on, whether you are in a difficult conversation or you are in a boardroom that you are being pressured to make a decision and so on and so forth. And I think this is a beautiful start for me, really to have this composure that I stay grounded. Like you said, the mirror, I really love the word that you put in and how you frame it. The mirror itself, it invites more connections, when people feel your energy, that you're not reactive, that you're actually listening and communicating. And I think this connection, it's really where leadership should come in to
I
build
love.
that trust, that
Yes.
trust, yeah.
Yes. No, I love how you say that because that's the benefit of practicing mindful leadership, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
it's not just you, it's your entire team and organization that feels that mindful pause, whatever it might be, and that calmness you feel, it it is mirrored out to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's and
Mm-hmm.
it changes the way teams respond and react together. It
Mm-hmm.
can change an organization and how people feel about each other. It's all encompassing. What you're saying is just totally all encompassing
It,
of an organization, of how leaders um, can make a bigger impact in their uh, with their teams.
mm-hmm.
That's so important.
It is, I've seen a lot that people that I work with, leaders that
Uh,
I work with, it not only change the way they lead in the workplace, in the boardrooms, but also how they live life. To me, it's really this embodied practice. You build connection with your families, your siblings, everything. It's just so different, like how we just came together out of nowhere from LinkedIn and we got connected just like that,
yes.
right? Yeah, I think this is really beautiful.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's this has been a great conversation. It's been a
Mm-hmm,
beautiful experience.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It links our heartfelt passions and purposes together. And it helps, I think, together we help other leaders understand that, you can learn this and it's a skill and it's a positive thing that will resonate not with just with you and your teams and your organization, but throughout your life with other people, right? And that it will become such a part of your life that you will uh, change how you feel about yourself and how you resonate with your own personal life.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Felipe. So this channel is really for leaders to join us in this space, to pause, to learn something new. And for me, my intention, like what you have mentioned, earlier, the same. We want to create a space where leaders can feel to have this permission to slow down, to reconnect with themselves first, because it's always the self leadership, right? And it isn't about fixing how you lead, your leadership skills and so on and so forth, but it's about remembering that leadership, we are human too, right?
Yeah,
Emotions are real, everything are real,
yeah,
and I
yeah.
really hope those listeners who are listening to us, that they feel less alone, that they're with us and we're here holding that space, so that they are more grounded, and I like to gently invite them back to the way of leading that also includes that is coming out from the heart, and to lead with presence. Yeah.
I think that's a great invitation. And a great way to end our conversation is that, you know, leading with
Hmm.
presence makes a difference, right?
It does. It
And
does.
and if we can help them lead more with presence, then we are accomplishing our purpose in life and our life goals to
Mm.
help leaders respond more impactfully and lead with presence.
When you say that, I really can feel your sincerity, your calmness, and that energy that you're emitting outward. uh, Really, that presence that I felt. I really want to thank you so much for being here, for holding this space for us, for the leaders who are listening here. Thank
And
you.
it's been my pleasure to do this with you and to meet you. And I hope we have more impactful conversations together. Um,
Definitely.
we can help, that can help resonate with other leaders. But I
Hmm.
just want to thank you for your expertise, your compassion, and what you've taught me. I've learned so much just from your YouTube videos and listening to you and being with you. So thank you. as well for everything that you brought to the table. And I wish you well always. And thank you again for this wonderful opportunity to chat and experience life um, in a mindful, present way.
It's both way, Dr. Felipe. Yeah. So before we close, I'd like to invite the audience to join us together. Let's take a pause together with your eyes closed, deep in breath, and a long and slow out breath. Now we're here. There's nothing to fix, nothing to change, just noticing what's here right now. Feel that sensations in the body. And on your next out breath, see if you could just release the tension, release everything that's there. May whatever that you're carrying be met with kindness. And may your leadership, whether it's at work or in life, be guided by presence. Thank you for sharing this place with us.
Thank you, Dr. Annie. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
you.